Hi guys, my name is Chloe and I'm coming to you today with my February wrap-up. So I read 26 books and all of them have been talked about in vlogs. So this month kind of started with Contemporary-a-thon, so I have 2 vlogs about that, and then I weekly vlog. So if you want to hear more about any of these, I'm going to go through them in the order that I read them. So the vlogs, they'll be in the vlogs accordingly. So because there's 26 and because I've already talked about all of them, I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. So let's just get started. The stats for the month are as follows. I had 2 2-stars, 1 2.5 star, 4 3 stars, 13 3.5 stars, 3 4 stars, 1 4.5 star, and 2 5 stars. So this month averages to 3.48 stars, which is pretty good. It's pretty, for me, a 3 star is like meh, and a 3.5 star is like better than meh, but still not exceptional or great. So for me, that is pretty good, and it's kind of been weighted. I read some of the lower star stuff at the beginning of the month, and for the most part, the end of the month has been pretty good. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. The first one I read was Dreamland by Sarah DESSEN, and that one is about a girl who kind of lives in her sister's shadow, and then her sister disappears. She runs off with her boyfriend, and so then this girl is left to kind of like make her own identity, and she falls in love with this boy who's not very good for her, and it's this it's the darkest Sarah DESSEN book I've read, and it's about domestic abuse and all sorts of trigger warnings. So look into that if you're interested in reading that. The next one was The 4 Seasons by Mary Alice Monroe. I gave that 3.5 stars. It's about 4 sisters. 3 of them come back together because the youngest one dies, and it's just the story of all these women and where their lives are, and they've kind of fallen apart, so how they come back together. The next one was My Funny Valentine by Debbie MACOMBER. I gave that one 3 stars. It was cute. It was a novella and nothing exceptional. It's about a woman who has some kids, and her kids set her up for Valentine's Day, and it was cute. Then I read, let me see, I've got my Goodreads pulled up. Celebration by Fern Michaels. I gave that one 3.5 stars. It's about a couple living in Germany with their teenage kids because he's in the military. Then he gets discharged because he's got some sort of kidney disease. So she takes the kids back to the States, and he's supposed to come a month later, but he never comes, and there's a lot of secrets that are revealed. So that one was good. Then the next one was Mom and Mr. Valentine, and that one is by Judith Bowen. It was another Valentine's Day novella, and I gave that one 4 stars. And that one was my favorite by far. It's about a woman, she's a single mom with a son, and the town's like hockey team, professional hockey team, they've got a player who's injured, so he comes to her little town and is a part of her and her son's lives, and it's their romance. So that one was really cute. Next was 3 Wishes by Liane Moriarty, and this is her debut book, and it was way different than any other Liane Moriarty I've ever read, and I gave it 3 stars. It was about 3 triplets. They're 33. They're all in different stages of life, so just kind of a women's fiction. The next one was The Girl You Left Behind by Jojo Moyes, and this one is dual timeline between World War I and present day. And it's about a painting called The Girl You Left Behind. And so we get to see when it's painted in 1917, I think it was. And then they believe that painting was stolen. So it's that story and where it is now today. The next one was Little Lady, Big Apple by Hester Brown. And that one is one of my 2 stars. And that one is it's the second in a series. And I did not read the first. So maybe that dampened my enjoyment of it, but it's about the Little Lady agency, which basically fills any roles of like a wife or anything like that. You can hire them, but they don't do sex or laundry, and they don't do fake dating, so I don't really know what they do, and it was just very bad for like perpetuating stereotypes, and it just, I barely made it through. Then, thankfully, after that, I read Eleanor and Gray by Brittany C. Cherry, and that was a 5 star. So good. I've talked about this multiple places, also in the collaboration video where we all talk about our February romance picks, but briefly, this one is about Eleanor and Grayson. They're friends when they're teenagers. She's Miss Bookworm, he's Mr. Popular. They're unlikely friends, turn into a relationship. Then her family moves. They lose touch for a certain number of years. then they come back together when she applies for a nanny job back in her hometown, and she finds out it's for Grayson. Grayson is now this super wealthy guy, and he's also super hardened and dark and broody and not a happy man. So we get to find out what happened to both of them in the meantime, what changed Grayson so much. Can they get back together? Can they not? And that one was really, really good. 5 stars. Next was What She Knew by Jilly McMillan, and this one was 3.5 stars. It's about a woman who is out walking in the park with her son. Her son asks to go run ahead she's in the woods, and her son asks to go run ahead to the park. She says, yes, I'll meet you there, and then the son's not there when she gets there, and he's been kidnapped, and so the book goes trying to figure out what happened to him. The mom is maybe to blame, maybe not. And so it's a thriller dealing with a child abduction. So then next was A New Leash on Love by Debbie Burns. I gave this one 3.5 stars, and this one I read right in the thick of like the moving days where we were having long days of moving, and my brain was just kind of blah, blah, blah. So I'm giving it 3.5 stars. It's a little generous for my enjoyment, but I was also so chaotic that I couldn't really invest in the story in the way that I wanted to. But it's about a no-kill animal shelter. This woman is running it, and then this man, he has to take his family dog there because his marriage splits up, and they decide to get rid of the dog. And then the daughter starts working for the agency or for the animal shelter, and it's just their love story. So that one was cute. 3.5 stars. All American Girl by Meg Cabot. This one I also gave 3.5 stars. Again, this one is not anything deep or exceptional, or you're not going to learn a whole lot from this one, but it is very cheesy 90s Meg Cabot. So it's about a girl who is very into art. She gets in trouble because she's doodling and drawing all these pictures instead of doing her schoolwork. And then she goes to this art class, and the president's son is a part of it. So it's her relationship with the president's son. Next was Just Like Other Daughters by Colleen Faulkner, and I gave that one 3.5 stars as well. It's about a mother and her daughter whose name is Chloe, and Chloe has Down syndrome. And Chloe meets a boy in her like daycare facility that is also some sort of mentally challenged. He's not Downs, but I don't know what he does have. And they fall in love. And so it's the mom trying to let her daughter go, but also trying to really hold her tight. And Chloe is 25, so she's an adult, but it's just figuring all that out. It's more about the mom, I would say, than the daughter, because we get mostly her perspective, very little from Chloe's. So 3.5 stars. Next was Morning Comes Softly by Debbie MacComber. That one is 3.5 stars. It's about a man who lives in Wyoming, and he has to take care of his niece and nephew, I think. I think it was a niece and nephew. His brother and his sister-in-law die, so he's got his kids, and he needs help, and so he puts an ad out for a house cleaner. Can't get a house cleaner, so he puts an ad out for a wife, and then this girl who was a librarian somewhere in the South answers the ad and comes, and it's their relationship. They get married, and it's them trying to figure out everything, and I really like that one. Next was Open Book by Jessica Simpson, and this is her memoir that just came out, and it was so good. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed, I listened to it on audio, which I think is totally the way to go, because you could hear her choking up at times. You could just hear her emotion, and she is self-professed one of these girls who just falls in love at the drop of a hat, and you can totally feel her passion for different things, different people. She talks about everything from childhood and trying out for the Mickey Mouse Club and not making it, and her relationship with Brittany and Christina, and then her relationship with Nick, and then her relationship with John Mayer, Johnny Knoxville. Like, she talks about everything, and then her current relationship, her current marriage, and her kids. And she wrote it as she was 7 months pregnant with their third kid, I think. And so me being almost 7 months pregnant with my second, it was very relatable, just talking about being a mom and being pregnant and doing all that. So loved it. Next was Her Secret Valentine by Judith Bowen. This was another 2-star book for me. These 3 Valentine's Day novellas that I read were all part of an anthology called Sealed with a Kiss. And so this is the final book in that, and I did not like it at all. It was a workplace romance about a girl who works in this law firm, I think. She falls for one of the lawyers. And then it's just a really immature interaction where she's telling the lawyer about this guy she's in love with, and she is, he's saying, "Oh man, sounds like a jerk." she's not telling him that it's actually him. They bond over his daughter because she helps out when the nanny gets hurt. It just wasn't for me. So if you've read any other Helen Brooks, let me know if it gets better. Then I read The Liar by Nora Roberts. This is 3.5 stars. This was another one about a woman who is married and then her husband dies in an accident, and come to find out everything about him was fake. He was lying about everything, like nothing. He had multiple identities, lots of crimes he had committed. He wasn't who he said he was. And so she takes her daughter back to their hometown, and she just tries to figure out how to pick up the pieces, because now she's left with nothing except debt and a bad name. So that is their story. Then I read Breathe by Abby Glines, and I'm giving it 3 stars. Super cheesy, super cheesy. It's the first in a series called the Seabreeze series, I think, and it's like a 9-book series, but this one specifically is about a girl, and her mom is pregnant, and she's a single mom, and her mom's just irresponsible. Like, this girl bought her mother condoms, and her mom didn't use them. So, super irresponsible. And so she has to take over her mom's job because her mom is too pregnant to do it. And the job is working in this house that a famous person lives in. Come to find out, the famous person is this teen heartthrob singer, kind of like I envisioned like a Justin Bieber. And so he comes there for the summer, and it's their relationship, and just very cheesy. But I think the following books may be better because it's following her male best friend, and I really liked his character. He was one of my favorites. So I think the series gets better. If you've read it, let me know. Next, I read Anne of Avonlea, which is the second in the Anne of Green Gables series. I read that for the Annalong, and that is hosted by Tia and all the books, and Amanda from Curly Reader. And that is a Goodreads group that is reading one Anne of Green Gables book per month. So this was the second one. I have only ever read the first one, so I was really excited to read this one, and I gave it 4.5 stars. It's just about Anne. She, at the end of the first book, well, I'm not going to say what she did at the end of the first book because that could be spoilery. So this is just Anne in the next installment. She's like 16 to maybe 20 or something. My one complaint about this series is how quickly time goes. And so, yeah, she starts the book at 16, and I think she's late teens, early 20s when it ends. And then finally, the last one I read was Rosemary Cottage by Colleen Coble, and I gave that 3.5 stars as well. That one is it's actually the second in the Hope Beach series, but they can be read as standalones. It's about this girl, her brother dies, and so she goes to their family cottage called Rosemary Cottage. And then she's trying to figure out, like, her brother dies in a surfing accident, and she doesn't believe that it was an accident. She thinks that he was killed. So then she also meets Curtis, who's one of the Coast Guard officers, and his sister also died, and there may be some connections, and she died in an accident as well, but they both try to investigate their siblings' murders or deaths and see if they were murders. So that's everything I read. Overall, like I said, pretty good reading month. If you've read any of these, please let me know. I started or picked up a couple series kind of in the middle, so if you've read any of the series, let me know if they're worth continuing. As of now, I was reading the ones that I physically have on my shelf, so I don't know if I'll dive into the rest of the series right away, and they're all kind of backlist, so they all aren't going anywhere. So I don't know if I'll dive into them right away, but if you've read them, let me know, and we'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, guys, editing Chloe here, and somehow I just completely did not talk about 7 books. So I'm going to just add these on at the end. They are probably in a random order because I don't know how some of these got marked wrong on Goodreads, and so they didn't get, I didn't talk about them because of that, but then I don't know what happened to the rest of them, so I guess I just skipped them. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you about 7 more books. The Sister Circle by Vonette Bright. I gave that 4 stars. It's about a woman who, I think her husband dies, and so she's left with this big house, and she decides to rent out rooms. And so 4 women come together, and they're all very, very different, and they all just start figuring out how to live together in this house. And so, like I said, 4 stars for that one. Let me see. I wrote them down so I would not forget them again because I don't know how I did it. So Next was The Girl Before by Rena Olson, and this one is also, it's about sex or human trafficking, and it was really dark. I gave it 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. The main character was really, really, really naive, and their ending was kind of easy, but overall 4 stars. So that one actually was not in my stats, so that would skew my stats a little bit higher because it was a 4-star. So I actually read 27 books, but that one I had not marked it as read. I guess I had just done my review. So, guys, this month it's been real. So next was Class Mom by Lori Gelman. I gave this one 4 stars, and I really, really liked it. It may even be a 4.5 because now that I'm thinking back on it, it was so good. It was about a woman in Kansas City, which is close to where we live. She's a class mom. She's got like not grown, but like older teenage kids, and then she remarried and had a kid, and so she's got a kindergartner, and she's very not typical class mom. She's like really crass and stuff, and so she writes these emails as class mom, and they're just hilarious. Overall, I really liked that one, so that was 4 stars. Next is The Bloom Girls by Emily Main Kavanaugh, and I gave that one 3.5 stars. It's sisters, their father dies. It's very similar to that Four Seasons book, because it's 3 sisters coming together to try to deal with the death. This time it's the death of their dad. They're all in different places. 3.5 stars. Let's see. What else did I forget? Hello Sunshine by Laura Dave. This one is 3 stars. It's about a girl. She was like this Food Network star or whatever, and then all of a sudden somebody hacks her Twitter, and social media goes crazy because this person exposes that she doesn't know how to cook. Like somebody else does all the recipes and everything. She's really just the persona. And so everything falls out from under her, and she has to kind of make her come back into the world. And I thought she, like at the beginning, says she's not a good person, and then she goes back to her hometown, and she like continues to be a bad person. And so she continues to lie and cheat, and I just didn't like her at all. It was 3 stars. I wouldn't recommend that one. Next was The Memory Keeper. Next was Passion on Park Avenue by Lauren Lane. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's about 3 women. They meet at this man's funeral. One of them was married to the man, and the other 2 are mistresses, and they bond over, they're all wearing like the same shoes, I think. And so this is one of the mistresses' stories, and her mom had applied for an apartment on Park Avenue for her, and her mom has since died, so she goes to the interview for this apartment, and the reason her mom applied for her is to kind of get back at some people who her mom had worked in this building when the girl was a child, and so she's trying to like get kind of revenge on these people. And so it's just that story of like kind of a revenge plot turned love story. So that one was 3.5 stars. And then finally, The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. I just thought, I know I'm like over a decade behind on reading this book, and a lot of people really like it, but it just was boring for me. It's about a pair of twins that are born, and one of the boys is born neurotypical, and the girl is born with Downs, and the dad's a doctor, so he knows like what is going on right away, and he tells the mother that the second baby died, and instead he gives the baby to his nurse and says, take her to this like home for special needs children, and instead the nurse keeps her. So it's the story of the mom and dad and the son, and then the nurse and the daughter, but you get almost nothing from the daughter, and the only likable character was the nurse, and it was just boring. So many tangents, so many things I did not care about. Didn't like it. So add those 7 in, and like I said, it'll skew my stats a little bit, but 27 books, an extra 4-star in there. Overall, good month. Again, if you've read any of these, let me know. Sorry, I will try to get my junk together next month. It's just, hopefully, with not moving and like being done with that, and now we're finally healthy, I can make a million excuses, but we'll see. Fingers crossed that next month is better. We'll talk to you later. Bye.